in terms of be prepared. Because of different kinds of organizations, as Megan said, we have some organizations that have a safety in a maturity level, a high maturity level, and we have the most part, in developing this. Try to understand in a bureaucratic way sometimes, suffering with the illusion of conformity. So try to understand what is the difference in complying and, have a culture, a real culture. So your message to health and safety, and after that, your message to leaders.
I have 3 pillars in the health and safety strategy for Siemens. First is adaptive, being adaptable for what's come. So the company is transforming, Siemens is transforming. We had more than 175 years and we had transformed the course of the year. So I don't expect that Siemens stays as it is today. I think we are in the transformation. Yeah. So how we set up this. Second part is empowered people, because I do believe that empowered people can design a healthy, safe workplace everywhere.
I read an article the other day and it was talking about how companies are investing a lot of money and time into generative AI at the moment, but they're not seeing the returns. I guess one way of thinking about that is that they're experimenting, and exploring and innovating. But what are you seeing in terms of the type of initiatives that you and your team are deploying? Are they a lot of guesswork at the moment and sort of a lot of experimentation, or can you see this longer term vision of where things will come together?
Hello everyone, welcome to Headline Podcast, a space to promote global connections with good conversations. With my co-host, Dr. Megan Trainter, we received a special guest to discuss about trends, leadership, and culture. Today, for our conversation, we will receive Andresa Hernandes. She is Global Health and Safety Vice President from Siemens. Before I invited Andresa Hernandes, I would like Dr. Megan Trainter to join me. Hello, Megan. How are you?
Hi, Andresa. I'm doing great.
Excellent. So tell me your expectation for this conversation.
It's really interesting today with our conversation. We have 3 powerhouses here. You, me, and Andresa. And we've all had global roles in EHS. So I wonder if we're going to have a little bit of sharing of notes. But I think more than anything, we'll just get lots of great insights from Andresa. And then the other thing that's really interesting, I think that we have in common, is Andresa's also moved from one country to another, leading in global roles, as did I. I often joke to people when they say, Megan, where are you from? And I say, Seattle. And they look at me, they're like, that accent's not Seattle. So Andresa, I'm going to be curious to hear whether you experience something similar. But just what a beautiful conversation today we're going to have with us, the 3 powerhouses here.
Excellent. Megan, check this out. Our interview today is with someone who has my name, my culture, and is working the same field as I do. So let's welcome Andresa Hernandes. Andresa, would you please introduce yourself for us?
Yes, hello, ladies. It will be a very nice conversation, because every time that Megan was saying Andresa, I was like, she's talking to me? Not yet, so it will be quite funny. But yeah, so thanks a lot for having me. It will be a pleasure to share. Yeah, I hope we will have a really nice conversation, inspiring conversation. Where I come from, so I'm Brazilian, from a Portuguese family located here in Germany from the last 11 years. My German is still horrible, but people, accept now that I speak many languages, but life is too short to learn German properly. But I can survive, I would say. So, yeah, that's Andresa here in Germany, from Brazil. Enjoy a little bit of the summer in Germany that finally arrived. Yeah.
So, Andresa, I coach a lot of people, and especially safety people, and they're coming up through their career. And one of the biggest questions, actually, there's two questions that I often get asked. One of them is, how do you move from one country to another in the safety role? But the biggest one is, how do you get these global health and safety jobs at these big companies? So I'm really curious to hear your path and your journey of how you went from chemical engineer, I think it was, in Brazil, all the way to now being Siemens global health and safety person.
Yeah. Good question. And I'm really, let's try to make this short, right? So I never work in the chemical area as a chemical engineer. Yeah. So I started my career already in environmental health and safety. I started in the environmental protection area, where I was really always involved with the safety team, because we were one department, although I was E, so the environmental part, because it's back a little bit. I always want to do something good, give back to the society, So this was the reason that I selected what I would do. And I didn't want to do environmental engineering because I always had for myself that I would follow what I call the basic engineering: chemical, mechanical, electrical, and so on. Then I select chemical because it's close to my heart, something that I like in the high school. But I never work on this field. So I was always look into the environmental protection area. And then I got to know, because we were EHS, getting more information about the safety. So when I was, I think right after finishing the university, I decided to go to my second degree engineering, that's safety engineer. And then I always work on the field of environmental health and safety since the beginning. Then I work in the food industry, I worked in oil and gas industry, and then I came to Siemens. Yeah. And I started as a safety supervisor for one of the biggest location in Brazil. Had my role in the I would say in the country, responsible for quality and environmental protection. Then I switched back from safety to environmental protection and quality. And then when I had a conversation with my manager at that point in time, see, he's already retired, such a nice guy, about opportunities. And he asked me, Andresa, would you be up for a job overseas for a period of time, only for learning and develop yourself? And I said, I was just said, in principle, yes, but I would like to talk to my husband because this has also impact in his life. I came back from this conversation and I come home. I said, look, I had this conversation about opportunities and so on. What do you think? And he said, look, he also works for Siemens, by the way, so makes life a little bit easier if somebody wants to ask. And it was a conversation like this. Andresa, let's do this way. The first one to get a concrete opportunity, we go, and then the other figure out. Then what happened? He got the invitation to come to Germany. And then for a week, I talk a lot, as you could realize. For a week, I was muted. Andresa was quiet. And I was like, oh my God. I said yes, because in my mind, it would be the invitation would become for me. And now what I would do. Then I came back to my manager at one time and said, look, my husband got an invitation to Germany for 4 years in a delegation, so expat contract. Is there anything that you can do? He said, I will give some calls. So long story short, I think 3 weeks after I had read interviews in Germany with 3 different positions, I was so blessing to get opportunities here as well. Yeah. And I would say that is not because I had this. So I had a deliverable. Yeah. So people knew my track records. Yeah. The impact that I created, the location that I was, and the country when I was responsible for the country. So then they offer me a different position. It's a big company. We had opportunities here, but I would say if somebody asks me, how do you do? Once is be prepared. Second, be open. And third one, be curious. Maybe the invitation will not come or the opportunity will not come as you imagine, but you need to be open.
Yeah.
Be quiet doesn't help much. So talk about this and find the way. Yeah. So basically was from, I would say, this way that I came to Germany, yeah, and not in exactly to the position that I'm today. But as this, I came as head of environmental protection for one of our business units or business sector that was at the point in time.
And then, yeah, just to go on for a minute from that, how do you then navigate into the global job? Because what I hear a lot is people have technical expertise, and it sounded like you did as well. But when you have these global bigger jobs, there's a different skill set and attributes that you need, right, to be able to do those. How did you manage your way into those, and what type of skills were you showing, I guess?
Yes, I think first of all, I came from not a Brazilian family, so my family is also from Europe. So I have a different exposure to different cultures, I would say. It's something that I think make me a little bit more sensible to understand the surrounds about where I am and when I'm interacting, and also being this people person, right? That I like to read the environment where I am. And I'm pretty much curious about the others. And I think this helps a lot to really do this transition in a different culture where you don't speak the language. Still today, in the introduction, I said about this, the life is too short to learn German. And in my first 6 months, so I had colleagues organize happy hours around me, but nobody invited me. 6 months. And I was like, oh my God, it's really hard to connect. But once you make the connection, they are your friends for life. Yeah. But all this transition, being a different country, and I moved from Sao Paulo, that's a huge city, for a village where everybody knew my husband, I, and my 2 golden retrievers. So I was the news of the little village, yeah, and not able to communicate properly also. So, yeah, I think you need to be curious again about and read the environment, respect the culture where you are. Don't force yourself toward any. The things will happen in the speed and the pace that it should happen. Yeah.
I would like to explore with you talking about culture differences. So, how do you perceive an approach to workplace safer different between Brazil, where you began, and Germany, where you are now? So, has this influenced the way you lead?
Everybody thinks that safety is different in different countries. And I don't think so. If you make this about the people, if you look to the people, understand what is going on here, what are their constraints, what are their pain points, where they are thriving, what they need to thrive. If you put this, doesn't matter if you operate in India, Brazil, or in China. You put the people at the center, and then you can design with them. Yeah. And again, go back to the read the environment, respect, and be curious, and listen to the people. And I think those are uh, I would say attributes that I learned from my family. My granny always said, Dresa, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen more, talk less. And I think applying this for our job helps a lot.
Oh, yes. I think when you're talking about people centricity, design thinking, we can promote safety as a lifestyle, not just something to comply. So, and I think disconnect people.
I do, it definitely connects people. I mean, if nobody wants to be told, like, do it, why? Yeah, I mean, it's adult, grown up relationship, right? I would never approach people in a parenting relationship like you have to do, you must do. No. Yeah. So we need to understand, and I think this is the relationship that you connect with the people for design the work to understand what they need. Of course, if we look to the industry in Germany, if you look to the, let's say, agriculture, let's use agriculture. They have much more machines that we have in Brazil. We have a lot of manual work. Yeah. So of course the risks are different. The context where they are it's completely different. So you need to understand this, the context where the work is happening and the people that are there. And then you can try, then you can support, then you can bring your best knowledge and sum up their best knowledge. And then we can make, then the magic begins. Yeah.
Yes. My documentary about the Mine Number 9 accident will premiere right here on YouTube. This tragedy was one of the events that inspired World Safety Day, a day to honor the memory of those who lost their lives at work. I'd love for you to join me for this premiere. Just head over to my channel at andresaraujo.official, subscribe and hit the bell so you will get a reminder when it goes live. See you there!
Do you ever wonder whether you're making the impact and have the influence that you're really, really looking for in your corporate career, perhaps if you're an entrepreneur or doing something else? Well, I offer one-on-one coaching services for purpose-driven leaders who are really looking to find some way of increasing their impact and their influence. So if this is something you're interested in, give me a call, send me a DM, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Context is a beautiful word, isn't it? And I think it's a word that we all probably need to talk about more. Tell us more about how you think about context, especially as you're setting global strategies, leading global teams with everything that you're doing.
So one of my responsibilities is set this strategy. Maybe people, I don't know if everybody knows Siemens. Yeah, but Siemens is technology company that combines real to the digital world to create kind of AI-powered technology that accelerates our customers' digital journey or their sustainability journey. And this impacts, I would say, the life of everyone. Because, if you are in Munich and you get in our ICE, so the high-speed train is a Siemens product. So Elizabeth Line, it's a Siemens product. Yeah. So, but also if there are so many, if you watch some of car production use Siemens to do the simulation. So we have a lot of products of Siemens around the world that impacts everybody's life, and we can help to bring this to life. And of course, who are we? We are 300,000 employees globally. We operate in more than 190 countries, if I'm not mistaken. It's more than 150 for sure. When I look to the EHS, or the environmental health and safety community, we are talking about 1,400 people. So when we talk about context, we need to understand what the context that they are working. In Siemens, I have the opportunity to work with, I would say, a huge variety of business. I have the digital industry. Yeah. I have the mobility business. So I have high, I would say, high, I would not call high risk, but I have a really heavy industry. Imagine people building a train. And I have people design software to do simulation of digital twins. In everything between. If I don't understand the context, and not the context of their work, but the context where the work is also happening. So I would say there are many levels of this context that we need to take into consideration. Yeah. And in my responsibility to set a strategy, I always look to this strategy as where we are going, but giving our local EHS folks the opportunity to define the how that makes sense for their location, for their context, for their maturity level. Yeah. I personally don't like much the culture thing, but you can understand that you have different status on the safety evolution, I would say.
Wow, perfect. And how you create the balance between context and trends? Because when you design a strategic plan, we need to, establish a balance between the context and the trends that comes. So how you do this today?
I think you need to understand first of all what is the company is going, where we are going as a company, and then you can understand. Okay, these are the trends that will influence us. And my responsibility is to anticipate and to start work on the enablement of the people when the trends become real. They are equipped to thrive. This is my responsibility. I always say that I approach my strategy for two angles. One, the governance. I'm responsible for the governance of the safety in Siemens. Yeah. But also the enablement. How do I enable the organization to thrive? And the enablement can have a different levels and focus on different topics. But you need to look, anticipate, and build the knowledge, the foundation that they will need for thriving.
You talked about anticipating. And do you find that difficult or easy? I'm guessing that's a major part of the role actually with this global strategic role as well. How do you actually anticipate what's happening? Do you have to be in certain meetings or certain rooms? Are you doing a lot of dreaming and guessing? How do you actually figure it out?
I think you have some guessing, because when you talk about anticipation, you don't have the concrete part. It's funny because I had a meeting with some of my teammates, I think 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about opportunities in a trend. And they were like, I can really look to the risk part, but they were struggling for the opportunity part. And I said, look, first question is this material? So anticipation needs to take a lot of, I would say, guts, your feeling. So it's this is at knowing the company, knowing where you're going, read the environment, being update, being connect, network with people. Yeah, because I don't know everything. Being curious, and then you bring all this input. Sometimes you get overwhelmed. Yes. Then you look to that together with a team, right? I'm not doing this by myself. I would be super unfair. I have an amazing team. A shout out to all of them. I'm so proud of the team. Team Siemens is, they are amazing, yeah. And together with them, we look to that and say, is this material, or is too much craziness from my side? Yeah. What can we do this? How can we make this happen? And then you start monitoring the things that you say, this is material, and try to have a better feeling how concrete this becomes. Some things will like disappear, other will get momentum, and you need to be prepared for the momentum.
Talking about future, so how we can imagine 10 years from now for the future of health and safety? So what you can talking about?
what I think,
Let's
right?
let's explore your view about future.
My view is we will have a lot of AI agent helping us to be dedicated to more meaningful work. So I think in 10 years from now, we all will be work with AI agents and having these as co-workers. This is how I see.
I read an article the other day and it was talking about how companies are investing a lot of money and time into generative AI at the moment, but they're not seeing the returns. I guess one way of thinking about that is that they're experimenting, and exploring and innovating. But what are you seeing in terms of the type of initiatives that you and your team are deploying? Are they a lot of guesswork at the moment and sort of a lot of experimentation? Or can you see this longer term vision of where things will come together?
So I have three pillars in the health and safety strategy for Siemens. First is adaptive, being adaptable for what's come. So the company is transforming. Siemens is transforming. We have more than 175 years, and we had transformed the course of the year. So I don't expect that Siemens stays as it is today. I think we are in the transformation. Yeah. So how we set up this. Second part is empowered people, because I do believe that empowered people can design a healthy, safe workplace everywhere. The third pillar, it's really about data and technology driven. In here, we had started a couple of years back in the foundation part. Bring what is AI, what is robotics, what is augmented reality, what is virtual reality. Bring this to the EHS professionals, and we create space for experimentation. So we still have experimentation areas, and we still areas where we are already concrete using, for example, AI support for ergonomic analysis. One example, yeah, that is concrete, is deployed, is already running for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. We have, for example, the augmented reality to use for audits and connect to the people. So we have a lot of things that we already experiment and say, this is good, we deploy. There are things that we experiment and then say, yeah, good, but it's not our core. So it doesn't make sense to invest more resources, better to go to the market and buy it, Fred. For example, kind of, I would say, virtual trainings with some experimentation together with like some that use more than just the gamification, is a little bit more advanced than that. So it doesn't make much sense. We can have experimentation, but doesn't make sense to do this internally. So when you ask me, there is a space for experimentation. Yes, but you need to be consistent in a strategy. You should not experiment with things if you don't have the intent to deploy consequently, because then you need to select your priorities.
Also, as a leader, how do you encourage the team to experiment? Because one thing that I've seen is that, especially when you work for big companies and they have certain metrics that you're supposed to hit, and they may be linked to a bonus or to something else, perhaps that sometimes takes away someone's appetite to actually take risk and experiments. So, as a leader, how are you encouraging people to just try some stuff and see if it works?
Yeah, I think it goes to another pillar of the whole Siemens strategy, and also that I really drive is the growth mindset. So Siemens priorities, Siemens strategic priorities, it has two pillars that I love. It is growth mindset and empowered people. So you empower people that if you are saying to them, like, have a growth mindset, you need to create opportunities and say, is a safe space to make mistakes. So I create more in this. We just launched last week our tech space, We create a tech space for the people where we can learn and deploy and share learnings in the technology deployment. We had test things that didn't work out, that was completely fail. So we need to fail fast and learn and do different next time. But you need to create definitely boundaries that nobody get hurt and there is no impact in the business. Yeah, I will not deploy some technology that I'm not 100% sure for 300,000 people. Never. I always do this in a little safe space and invite people. So invite people to bring their ideas. Say, do you have idea? Do you have are you curious about something? Let's figure out if it makes sense to us.
I was thinking about the empower people. Empower people is about developing competencies. So how will you deploy this with your global team? Do you have a specific strategy to do this? So in terms of mentoring, so something like that?
We have in Siemens one that I love is a learning world, that is a learning platform. It's available to everyone. So what we do in the safety team, we create learning paths for different topics. And I invite people on that. Yeah, it's not about you have to, you must to. It's here for you. If you want to upskill yourself, it's here. Come and consume. Yeah. Again, go back to nobody likes to be told you have to. Yeah. But if you show them why you are doing that in the convincing way, and you make things accessible and easy for them. So I develop, when we talk about technology, we have all the technology that you can imagine, Siemens, right? We start with AI long time ago. It's not something new for us in Siemens, but it's new for the EHS folks. It's new for safety. So what I did was 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we create a learning path for them. And we develop a learning path from EHS to EHS. It's not getting something that they cannot connect. It's how I translate the hierarchy of control and use in terms of technology. Then you talk their language. Then you create capabilities. Then you create capacity. Then you create curiosity. And then people feel more empowered to also grasp and upskill themselves.
My documentary about the mine number 9 accident will premiere right here on YouTube. This tragedy was one of the events that inspired World Safety Day, a day to honor the memory of those who lost their lives at work. I'd love for you to join me for this premiere. Just head over to my channel at andresaraújo.official, subscribe and hit the bell so you will get a reminder when it goes live. See you there!
Do you ever wonder whether you're making the impact and have the influence that you're really, really looking for in your corporate career, perhaps if you're an entrepreneur or doing something else? Well, I offer one-on-one coaching services for purpose-driven leaders who are really looking to find some way of increasing their impact and their influence. So if this is something you're interested in, give me a call, send me a DM, and I'd love to talk to you about it. You know, I think this topic about technology and EHS people is really interesting. And it feels like some of the conversations that are happening feel separate to the business. So I don't know, tell me a reflection to these sort of statements. But what I'm seeing is people in safety talking about technology and safety or safety 4.0. But when you're actually inside a business, isn't it the business processes themselves that start integrating technology and you consider safety as perhaps an output of that? I'm just wondering whether the safety community is thinking about this the right way. And I'd love to hear from what you've seen, especially working in a technology company, how the operational lines are thinking about it and people beyond safety are thinking about all of this.
I think it comes from those from two different sides. You can come from the product, like from the line operation, and I can see that once you bring technology to the operation, health and safety must be integrated, right? Because you design with people centricity. You cannot deploy a technology if you don't take into account the people in the interaction with technology. This is one topic. The other topic is when we bring technology from the health and safety perspective, I always ask, what is the problem that we want to solve? The technology must have a purpose when it comes to health and safety. Technology must try or implement the technology just for the sake of technology doesn't make any sense for me. So it's always like, what's the problem that we want to solve? And I think this is sometimes missed by the EHS professionals. What's the problem? So I see something nice and I want to try, but again, what is the priorities, problem statement, impact that we want to create? If we align this, for sure you need to operate in the ecosystem. And if you want to solve a problem, I can guarantee that the problem that the safety people are saying is the same that the operational folks are seeing, because we don't live in a different planet. Sometimes we behave like that, but we don't. Yeah. And I think if we come together and work in ecosystem and look to the technology for the different perspective and create solution, take the people into account in the center, then I don't see conflict. I don't know if I answer your question, Lynn.
You did, and probably the big unlock for me, and it can probably help others as well, is if you ask yourself what is the problem that you're trying to solve, rather than looking at the bright, shiny solutions. Because I think that's often what is brought to safety people, whether it's through vendors or new technology, or they're grasping for something. So they find a product or a solution, but actually they haven't really thought through what is that problem that they're trying to solve.
Yeah. What's the business case, right? We as EHS, sometimes we come to the board and say, I need money because I'm health and safety. Yes, but so comes market, so comes, So you need to have a business case. You need to have a problem to solve. You need to understand why you are doing things. I think it sounds simple, but simple saying difficult to do. And I know that. But it's only if we approach with this, we can be consistent.
Yeah, and I guess because in safety there's multi-dimensionality, it's not ever one aspect that contributes to something happening or not happening. There are often so many different aspects and conflicting situations of what's going on that perhaps that's why it's hard to answer that question, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? So I'm curious, how do you guide your teams through that huge complexity of all of these different parameters and different things that they're trying to get their arms around?
Oh, I think there are days that we are everywhere. Also, there is no magic for this. But what I always try to look is not working in island, be isolated, bring these more different perspectives and try to collaborate as much as possible. We always, in Siemens, we say, like, we need to work in our ecosystem, right? Who is in our ecosystem? And I think this help us to really narrow things down and try to be more focused on what makes sense for the entire community, not for one individual, one perspective. But it's hard.
Yeah, and this is the role of governance, active governance. So to make this influence and act in different ecosystem, integrate people. So I think the experience of a good governance. So can you share some experience about this?
I think I mentioned before that every time that we define something in the governance, we go to what the how comes for the enablement, and the enablement is done always together with the people at the sharp end. Yeah, I don't have the illusion that you're miles away from an operation, because I am. Yeah, although I try to be as close as possible, have so many layers. Is the company is so big? So how do I reach out to them? It's really enabling the entire organization, and this is about. And I love that. So I have people that call me in the teams, not very formal. So, Andresa, can you support me? Yes, I can. And I love that people approach me or my team, whatever, to clarify, because we can say what, this is the governance part. And together with the community, we can define the how.
Yeah, perfect.
Because you raise a really good point there, which is that health and safety really needs to be owned within many different elements and different parts and different people of the business. And that when someone contacts you on Teams and asks for your support, there's probably different ways that you can give it. Could you perhaps talk to us about the way that you think of the safety team, how they influence, what is even effective influence, and how do you add value to a company?
Yeah. For example, my governance team is very small. That people think that I have 1,000 of people reporting to me. No, I don't. I have my governance team. I think we are total 8. So it's not a big group. It's not a big group of people, but everything that we do, we do in working groups. Most of the things we are doing in working groups, because we cannot have a perspective of everybody else. Yeah. And today, my governance team, everybody, I would say most of the people, they have really ground experience. So I sometimes I talk to some peers in the past, in other companies, that when we discuss about permit to work, some of them had never or performed one permit to work. Yeah, they talk about, but they don't have really concrete. I know how to do a permit to work. I had done 1,000 of that. Yeah, I know how to check confined space. I'm an environmental health and safety professional, and I think this in all my team is the same. And I think this connect us to them, to the people that are in the countries, in the business, and they come together to work with the same purpose, because doesn't matter where we are, our purpose is shared. Yeah, everybody works for the same goal. I think make things easier. Here I'm not saying that it's perfect. Yeah, it's not always perfect. It's like a big family.
I like this kind of strategy. So we need to come from the grow. But I would like to explore a different subject. So when you're talking about trends, how you thinking about mental health, psychological safety? So how this is embedded in your strategy?
This is a very, very good point. We have one element that adaptive when it comes to the strategic foresight. Yeah, when we talk about strategic foresight, you need to look to everything that's happening around you. And the core of our strategy is our people, right? So Siemens launched, I think 2 months ago. I'm terrible on dates. 2 months ago, we have I would say ambition, that is the work well-being. Yeah, to maintain a level of work well-being, and this is public. You can check it out our internet, and mean that it's embedded in our company strategy, not in the safety strategy only. And sometimes we feel a bit. I see a strategic strategy of health and safety that are disconnected from the company strategy. In ours is quite connected. So we have as a company this ambition to foster and maintain a good, I would say, a strong work well-being. Yeah, and this is the reason that we are doing this, the work well-being score that comes from Professor Deneves. And it's comparable, it's open, it's not something that we create, but it's something that's used in the industry, and has, I would say, academia back up this, that is comparable, every company can use. It's based on 4 questions only. And this is the way that we embed this in our strategy. Everything that we do not only for the physical health of the people, but the mental health. And we should not forget that work well-being is not only about health and safety, right? You have other drivers. And when you have this in the company, you are operating the ecosystem, you are work to really have a systematic approach to the topic. Invite the different drivers. Leaders are very relevant ones. Yeah. So how we make the leaders to lead in a health and safe well-being, because you can talk about psychological safety. You can have a big psychological safety strategy in your company. You can have a very nice slogan and so on. But psychological safety happens at the team level.
Yeah, people trusting one another at that level, right?
Being feel safe to speak up, because it's easy. If you cannot speak up in a small group with the people that you share 8-9 hours of your day, you will not speak up in a group with 100 or 1,000 people. Yeah. Maybe if you of course we have means for that, because it's then becomes different tools. But if you want to establish this psychological safety, is really work with our leaders in leading health and safety in the daily context. Yeah.
You know, I'm loving seeing more and more conversations about psychological safety. And I guess Amy Edmondson was one of the first, wasn't she, that sort of coined the term. And now it's become quite mainstream in terms of people understanding what psychological safety actually is and what it means. Yet in the context of health and safety, you know, for years we've been talking about consulting with employees, listening to employees, empowering workers to a certain extent if you can. Are you seeing this convergence at all, or what is the convergence between conversations of psychological safety and actually asking workers about what they're experiencing and having them participate in the hazard mitigation or hazard control process?
What I see in my experience, work will not speak up if they don't feel safe to speak up. They will not contribute for safe if they don't feel safe. So it's convert. I don't think that they are different. Different terms, same purpose. Identify means that people that knows best where are the risks, where are the potential risks, where the potential pitfalls, where they feel that, oh, this work is not okay. The paper accepts everything. As engineer, I know whatever I want to put in the paper will work. When I try to assemble this in the real life, it's completely different scenario. This is the reason in the civil engineer, they have the plan and the as-built. If you compare in both, they don't come together. I mean, there is a lot of differences. Huh? So, and I think here is the same. Yeah, the paper accept everything, but come to work and ask them if they can do the work in that way. and they will tell you if they feel safe to speak up. If you also being really trustworthy in terms of connect, being really curious, and go back to what I said about my granny. Listen more, talk less, because then you can really create a space where they will speak up. I see they are the concept comes together with and support this. I don't see that this is I would not say that the same, but they are come to the same place.
My documentary about the mine number 9 accident will premiere right here on YouTube. This tragedy was one of the events that inspired World Safety Day, a day to honor the memory of those who lost their lives at work. I'd love for you to join me for this premiere. Just head over to my channel at andresaraújo.official, subscribe and hit the bell so you will get a reminder when it goes live. See you there!
Do you ever wonder whether you're making the impact and have the influence that you're really, really looking for in your corporate career, perhaps if you're an entrepreneur or doing something else? Well, I offer one-on-one coaching services for purpose-driven leaders who are really looking to find some way of increasing their impact and their influence. So if this is something you're interested in, give me a call, send me a DM, and I'd love to talk to you about it. I feel like we all need to listen to our grannies because grannies give great advice like that. But there's probably so many other things that granny says or grandpa said that when you're that little bit older, you're like, oh, yeah, I should have listened to granny or grandpa.
I get it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I always remember her saying that. So, and I think that if we use this in our professional lives, we can really, really, really make space for the people to share their concern, to share their ideas, because they have better ideas how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So our health and safety at Siemens, is a program that we had deployed 5 years ago. And we work exactly in these contexts, getting data, work, and discuss with the people at the location. So what the data is saying to us, what the problem statement, how we can solve this. Yeah, because every location will have a different problem to solve.
What would you say to those EHS professionals, though, that are working in companies that perhaps have more of a downward type of leadership style? Because what you're describing here, I'm sure to some people feels a little bit like a dream, that's not the life that they live in. And yet they know that this is what makes a better health and safety program and better results is by talking with people and listening to them. But what would you suggest to those folks who find themselves in these situations where that's really difficult to do?
Talk to the people again, understand their point of view. Why is difficult to talk? Why they are not listening? I remember once that I had a conversation with one of my mentees a couple of years back. The mentee was super frustrated because his manager was not taking into account his ideas and always saying no, 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 no. And I said, did you ask why? Why should I ask why, Andresa? Understand his point of view would help you to understand why. So fast forward, the point was he was saying no because he had a target that if he could not reduce the budget, he would need to fire people. And he was doing his best to keep people safe with the resource that they had and also employed, because it was a big crisis back in Brazil that a lot of people lost jobs. Yeah. And this manager was saying no to some innovation because it was not the momentum. So what I say, sometimes top down is not because the person is not interested, they have a different problem to solve. So try to understand the other perspective. Have a business case and always look, what is the win-win situation? Bring the win. Sometimes I say to people, how do we make this person that doesn't want to move to shine? Let's make them shy, and then let's help them. Let's help them to achieve their goals, and we associate our goals to their problem. As I said before, I do believe that if we have a safety problem, we have a business problem. And if they are having business problems and we can support from our expertise point of view, I think at the end, we will succeed. But again, we need to understand the context. If the person is trying to save a lot of jobs and I'm asking for a big investment, somebody's off in this picture, right? And this is what I said before, that some of our EHS folks and colleagues in the world of environmental health and safety, they come with the idea without really reading the room.
You're talking about for the health and safety professionals when you explain your story, be prepared, be open, be curious. But be prepared, what it means be prepared? So what kind of suggestions, recommendations, or orientations to the health and safety professionals in terms of be prepared? Because of different kinds of organizations, as Megan said, we have some organizations that have a safety in a maturity level, a high maturity level, and we have the most part, in developing this. Try to understand in a bureaucratic way sometimes, suffering with the illusion of conformity. So try to understand what is the difference in complying and, have a culture, a real culture. So your message to health and safety, and after that, your message to leaders.
I mean, for us health and safety professionals, my message is to be prepared, meaning know what you want to do, what's the impact that you want to create. And then prepare yourself to have all the competence, all the capabilities, all the network. Yeah, don't work alone. Identify your champions. Who will cheer you up? Who will give you different perspective? We will also be trustful to say you're completely out of the picture here. So, having also honest partners that can bring you to reality. Sometimes shake you to look to the reality. I think be prepared for me is not one thing; it's several things that come, and be open. Yeah. Being prepared doesn't mean that everything will happen in the way that you wish. But being prepared helps us decide when the moment comes how to deal with the situation. Is get our toolbox, yeah? Open up your toolbox. You have so much things that you learn that you can apply from different situations. Can tell you, I remember when I studied in my safety engineering degree, that I studied pandemic. And I was like, come on, pandemic, I don't think that it will never happen in the world that we are living. This was my thought back like in 2000 something. Yeah, when you say when, because it will, yeah. When I finished, when we had the pandemic in 2019, 20, I was like, you see, maybe I should have been myself better prepared, because I think psychologically it was a big toll in all of us EHS professionals. Yeah. So we were learning by doing things. And I think here be prepared is having your toolbox that you can use in the different moments, because you cannot predict what comes towards you. You can be prepared to react better or to act better.
We know the strategy from Siemens zero harm culture. What does this mean in the practical way?
I mean, zero harm culture was our program a couple of years back. And I think zero harm culture was what we need at that point in time as a company. Yeah, in terms of transformation. So in 2020, our zero harm culture in our health at Siemens program, they merged together to face the new momentum of Siemens, the new demands of Siemens, but also the evolution of this program. Yeah, and we have the health and safe at Siemens that takes some of I would say principles. Yeah, that we do not compromise on health and safety of our people. This was the same principle, and bring this to a more proactive way, more, I would say, human-centric approach for the health and safety perspective. So Zero Harm was our program for a couple of years, delivered what we needed at the point in time. But as everything in life, we evolved. And we evolve, bring health and safety together because we have so much synergies when you put the people at the center. And since 2020, we had deployed this program that is our main health and safety program. Everything that we do under this umbrella of health and safety at Siemens.
My documentary about the mine number 9 accident will premiere right here on YouTube. This tragedy was one of the events that inspired World Safety Day, a day to honor the memory of those who lost their lives at work. I'd love for you to join me for this premiere. Just head over to my channel at andresaraujo.official, subscribe and hit the bell so you will get a reminder when it goes live. See you there!
Do you ever wonder whether you're making the impact and have the influence that you're really, really looking for in your corporate career, perhaps if you're an entrepreneur or doing something else? Well, I offer one-on-one coaching services for purpose-driven leaders who are really looking to find some way of increasing their impact and their influence. So if this is something you're interested in, give me a call, send me a DM, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Healthy and safe at Siemens. And how is that different to the other one? Because I think you're raising a really good point here, which is that over time you can have a strategy and it can serve you really well and it can achieve the results that you're hoping for. And at the same time, you might need to morph and change into something else.
Yeah. Exactly. So health and safety at Siemens, it's designed for that you can apply in teams, in the organization, and we combine. I would say it's kind of an organization development approach for health and safety, meaning that basically we have in our we have a diagnosis, what we call this is how they call that, reality check. We have the reality check, we have the data, we have people input from leadership, for middle leadership, for the people, the workers, so our people. This is the picture. Then we have a group of people at the location or a team that will look to the data and say, what's the data is telling us? And then during this, we use this kind of a discovering phase. We use a lot of agile methods and techniques to bring people to a problem statement. And we use people centricity. What the problem that we have at the location? How can we improve the health and safety of our people at this group of people at the location? Yeah. And then they together define what is the problem and they define the solution. I think the biggest difference from the zero harm culture is that we had a metrics. We would check against the metrics and then would say, this is the picture. You have the long hang fruits, and then they define, and you have something that was really systemic, and we need that. now we co-create the solution. So they co-create. We from governance, we from the team, and we are basically enabling the locations, the countries, with the facilitator. So we have a group of facilitators that they will facilitate this discussion. They will facilitate this discovering phase, this problem state, this co-creation of the solution that they need for that location. Yeah, and then the team will present to the leadership the solutions, not me. In the past was the governance team presenting the action plan to the problem, the action plan and things. No, they co-create at their teams or their locations and then present to the leadership. So for me, it's if you look to a normal OD or organization develop a process is basically health and safety at Siemens doing.
That approach might be really helpful to lots of our listeners here as they're thinking about their strategy and their tactics that they're using. You know, having this goal-focused approach, being able to understand what the problem statement is, to bring teams together, to have facilitated discussions about it. And then it sounds like as well that the team then owns the problem and the solution, and then they work on it together.
Exactly that. You summarized perfectly. You could be a facilitator for health and safety at Siemens.
Oh, I thank you.
I would like to know more about you. Tell us a breakthrough moment in your global journey.
Great moment of my global journey. Oh, this
A breakthrough.
A breakthrough. Oh, I don't know. Something
yes.
that is. It's hard question. Yeah. Breakthrough.
Or was there something that happened in your career that maybe changed the way that you thought about health and safety or your leadership style or your approach?
Maybe I can give you one example that for me is remarkable. When I arrived in Siemens, I was hired with a purpose of implementing the management system at our location. When I arrived there, I remember the first week I entered in one of our manufacturing sites. I opened and I was there. Hi, I'm Andresa. The guy looked at me like, what are you doing here? And I was like, so I'm the safety supervisor responsible for this. He's like, I didn't invite you to come here. And I was like, oh, I think I have a problem. Yeah. And then I said, I'm sorry, but I don't think that I need an invitation to come here because I'm as you. I'm also legal in Brazil. If you are the responsible engineer, you are legally, I would say, responsible for that. So I could lose my professional register. There is a thing there. If something goes south, yeah. So I was as liable as he was, but he was very tough. So fast forward when I was at the same location saying, yeah, I'm moving to Germany now. The same guy came, give me a hug and say, I didn't think that I would say this, but I will miss you so much. And for me, this is a breakthrough. He became one of the most, I would say, support manager during the journey that I had there. Even when I left the location and had the responsibility in the country, yeah. And I remember that after being in Germany, I went there for business trip once only. And then he was like, "Are you coming back to us?" And this, yeah, and I miss them as well. And for me, this was a big breakthrough because it was somebody that looked at me like I didn't invite you to look at me, give me a hug, and say I couldn't imagine that I would say, but I will miss you. So I think it's also not. I think it is just picture the scene, but everything that he did and he does for his people. How much he evolved in his um, leadership style for put people at the center, understand how a healthy and safe organization will perform better and so on. I think this was for me one of kind moments that I felt proud that we could really achieve this together. And this is together because he needs also to be open to change, right? You cannot change anybody. The person needs to understand, and he was open. And then this was a journey together, but was a journey.
Fantastic. I believe this, the transformation, but you need to be open, of course, yes.
There's something in Robert Cialdini's model for influencing, and I think there's 6 factors in the model, and one of them is likability. And perhaps that's what you're talking about here without even realizing it, is when someone is likable, it makes them more able to influence others. And vice versa as well. You know, we want to be with people that we like also. So I wonder
That's
if there's
true.
a secret nugget there from his model of influence.
I would look at this. I think I need to revisit that.
Yeah, he talks about some really good stuff. You talked about this one point earlier as well, which is reciprocity. So when you do something for someone else, then you're more able to influence because they feel like you've got their back and that, you know, that you're going to help them out with things, which of course we all want to do. But it's one of these fundamental principles around how certain people are more influential than others because of reciprocity.
Nice.
I think you were discussing that with when you were talking about your safety team and, you know, how the way that it's set up now is for them to facilitate and support rather than just demanding something, you know, that they're actually giving back as well. Mm.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the competence or empower people or develop health and safety professionals, you told about you need to understand what is your impact, the impact that you need to create and working for. So looking for the future, what is the impact that you need to create for the next 10 years? So in terms of the continued journey, so legacy, impact. So you thinking about that? You can share something?
I mean, if I want to let something, is I would like to be remembered that I was helped to shift the mindset for, as you said before, to compliance, to care,
I love this word.
to to put safety that is no longer about the rules, is not about the regulation, but is about building relationship, building workplace where we are collaborative, we are innovative, but always put the people at the center. That where the work well-being is at the center. That everything that we do is to design and create a place where people can work, can thrive, but also be happy of being part of that. If this is my legacy, I think I will be very proud of that. That I create some impact, that people will be healthy and safe for their families, for their life, for whatever they decide to do. Yeah.
That sounds like the perfect place for us to close out. I love hearing people share what their dreams are with their legacy. And Andreza, especially talking about care. You know, there's often a lot of discussion amongst health and safety people, whether we're the supporters, the carers, whether we're the governors, like what actually are we as a profession? And so by bringing in your vision of your legacy, I think that's a beautiful way for us to end the conversation. So thank you so much. Amazing.
We are people that can support to make change. We are very resilient professionals.
And how I'm curious about, before we close, how we can maintain our, mentality to continue learning. What you do in your personal life, to maintain this mentality. We need to continue learning.
I'm curious about people and what people are doing. I'm always asking to people, what are you doing? What is and then I get something from one person and I dig a little bit deep. So I have some books that I'm reading, and they are very eclectic as well. So go from coaching habits to work well-being in Best by Chaos. So I start reading one and move to another. So I think I'm curious, and I don't have one fits all recipe. Yeah, sometimes I'm listening to a podcast, sometimes I'm reading internet, and sometimes I have physical books. So yeah.
What's on your book stand at the moment? Or what's on your podcast list?
So I have now, I'm reading the Coach Habit. I like this, say less, but go back, ask more. I think I'm adapting myself or doing more, and change the way you lead forever. So I think it's quite a nice one. And I just finished the Why Work Well-Being Matters.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think those are. And I will read these again because I have this problem. Sometimes I read the entire book and then I come back to the parts that I want to dig a little bit deeper, have some notes or going for reflection, and take my iPad with me and draw my own takeaways. Let's put it that way.
I do this sometimes. I take some notes from our conversation so that I just talking points that I pay attention. At the core of our strategy is people. So wow, incredible. So strong well-being, systematic approach to well-being. So connect with all the strategy, not just part of the picture. So I love this. Work with the be prepared, open, curious, expose different cultures, but using the context. The context, I think this word is really special. So working with governance, enabling and empower people, anticipate. So these words I take some attention, special attention here, and I think we can have good insight about this. So thank you for your time. Thank you to accept our invitation to come here to share. Wow, you inspire me. Thank you.
Thank you both for inviting me and for sharing this time. I know that we have different time zones, and it is not easy to orchestrate, but I'm really happy that we took the time to have this nice conversation. So I think it's my first or second podcast. No, I think it's the first external podcast. So
wow,
thank you.
Another first. Yeah. So it's nice.
Yeah, an amazing conversation. Thank you, Andresa. I'll think of you as twins now. The two Andresas from Brazil. What an amazing conversation with Andresa Hernandez from Siemens. You know, I mentioned in the opening that what an amazing gift to have three powerhouses in EHS here on a podcast together. I don't know if we're going to be able to have this again, but it's certainly one of the highlights of my career, having conversations and reflections like this. So if you've stayed this long listening to Headline Podcast, please subscribe, like. We know these conversations are long and perhaps you'll find various little parts of them that are really helpful to you. And we appreciate that you've been listening to us and our guests. So bye for now.